The sound of her own breath was deafening in the sterile silence of the conference room. Across the table, 3 faces stared at her with practiced neutrality, the CEO's lips pressed into a thin line, the HR director clutching her folder like a shield, and the department head who couldn't quite meet her eyes. Clara's fingers traced the edge of the mahogany table, feeling the smooth finish that had witnessed countless strategic meetings. Meetings where she had been the one presenting brilliant campaigns, not sitting as the subject of someone else's carefully rehearsed speech. Unfortunately, Mr. Thompson began, his voice carrying the weight of corporate finality, we've decided to move in a different direction. The words hung in the air like smoke, obscuring the years she'd dedicated to this company. 8 years of early mornings, late nights, and weekends spent perfecting projects that had earned them numerous industry awards. 8 years of mentoring junior staff, of turning around failing accounts, of pouring her soul into every campaign until it shone like polished glass. Clara's mind raced back to just last quarter when she'd single-handedly saved the Johnson account, working 70-hour weeks to meet impossible deadlines. She remembered the celebratory dinner where they'd toasted her success, the same people now avoiding her gaze. Her pulse quickened as she processed their words, each syllable landing like a hammer strike against her professional identity. The severance package details blurred together, 6 months' pay, health benefits until the end of the year, career counseling services. It all sounded like background noise compared to the roaring in her ears. The fluorescent lights above seemed harsher than usual, casting unforgiving shadows across the room. She noticed how the HR director's pen hovered over the termination paperwork, ready to capture her signature on documents that would officially sever her ties to everything she'd built here. Clara's throat felt tight, but she maintained her composure, years of professional training keeping her spine straight despite the earthquake shaking her world. This wasn't just a job. It was her life's work, her community, her second home, and they were asking her to walk away from it all with nothing but a handshake and a cardboard box for her personal belongings. As the meeting concluded, Clara walked back to her office in a daze, each step echoing through the familiar corridors that now felt foreign. Colleagues who once greeted her warmly suddenly found reasons to avoid eye contact or duck into side offices. The sympathetic glance from reception caught her attention. News traveled fast in corporate environments. At her desk, she methodically packed her things, the family photo taken during that rare vacation, the stress ball shaped like a globe, the stack of industry journals she'd meant to read but never found time for. Each item felt like another brick removed from the foundation of her professional identity. The weight of lost opportunities pressed heavily on her chest. She thought about the promotion she'd been promised, the corner office that had been dangled like a carrot just out of reach. All those extra hours, all those weekends sacrificed, what had they amounted to? The injustice burned in her stomach like acid, but beneath it simmered something else, anger. Not the blind rage of betrayal, but a calculated fury that sharpened her thoughts rather than clouded them. They had underestimated her, dismissed her contributions without proper recognition, treated her like yesterday's news rather than the powerhouse who had repeatedly delivered results. Sitting in her car in the parking garage, Clara let herself feel the full weight of what had happened. Tears streamed down her face, but they weren't tears of defeat, they were tears of transformation. With each passing minute, her despair morphed into determination. These people, who had reduced her 8 years of dedication to a 15-minute termination meeting, had no idea who they were dealing with. She wasn't just some cog in their corporate machine, she was a force that had been building momentum for years. They had fired her silently, thinking they could sweep her accomplishments under the rug, but they had awakened something far more powerful than they could have anticipated. Clara's mind began racing through possibilities. She thought about the contacts she'd cultivated over the years, the industry insights she'd gathered, the innovative ideas she'd pitched but were shelved for being too ambitious. The company had tried to erase her, but they couldn't delete the network she'd built or the knowledge she possessed. As she wiped her tears and started her car, a plan began forming in her mind, not a desperate scramble for another job, but a strategic masterstroke that would redefine her career on her own terms. They had ended one chapter, but they had unknowingly set the stage for something far greater. That night, Clara sat at her kitchen table surrounded by papers and her laptop, the glow of the screen illuminating her determined expression. Instead of wallowing in self-pity, she transformed her dining area into a command center. First, she created a detailed inventory of her professional assets, an extensive network of over 500 industry contacts, proprietary knowledge of market trends, and access to several high-profile clients who still valued her expertise. Her fingers flew across the keyboard as she drafted a comprehensive analysis of her strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, a SWOT analysis worthy of any Fortune 500 boardroom presentation. She divided her strategy into 3 phases, each more ambitious than the last. Phase 1 focused on immediate stabilization, securing short-term consulting contracts with former clients while maintaining her presence in industry circles. Phase 2 involved building her personal brand through targeted content creation and speaking engagements at major marketing conferences. But it was Phase 3 that made her heart race with excitement, establishing her own boutique marketing agency that would directly compete with her former employer in the digital space. The irony wasn't lost on her. They had terminated her position citing budget constraints, yet she knew the company had recently approved $1 million upgrade to their executive lounge. Clara began mapping out her competitive advantage, intimate knowledge of their client base, understanding of their operational weaknesses, and most importantly, her reputation for delivering results that exceeded expectations. She sketched out organizational charts, financial projections, and marketing strategies, each document adding another brick to her foundation of revenge. Her phone buzzed constantly with messages from concerned colleagues and industry friends, each offering support and potential leads. Instead of viewing these as mere condolences, Clara treated them as intelligence-gathering opportunities. She learned about her former company's upcoming product launches, their staffing challenges, and their vulnerable accounts, information that would prove invaluable in executing her plan. With each new piece of data, her confidence grew, transforming her initial hurt into a laser-focused determination. The kitchen clock ticked past midnight, then 2 o'clock, but Clara remained engrossed in her work. She reached out to key contacts, scheduling coffee meetings and informational interviews under the guise of networking. What they didn't know was that each conversation was another thread in the tapestry she was weaving, a network of alliances that would become her secret weapon. Her former employer had given her a gift they couldn't possibly comprehend, the freedom to operate outside their constraints and the motivation to build something truly extraordinary. The following morning, Clara arrived at Café Allegro precisely at 8:30 a.m., her favorite latte in hand and a carefully curated portfolio tucked under her arm. Across the table sat Marcus Chun, former vice president of digital strategy at Technova Solutions and current angel investor. His sharp eyes scanned her proposal while Clara maintained perfect posture, channeling years of pitch meetings into this crucial moment. "Your approach to integrated marketing automation is impressive," Marcus commented, tapping the document. "But what makes you think you can outmaneuver Anderson and company?" Clara leaned forward, her voice steady and confident. "Because I understand their playbook better than they do. Their reliance on traditional media channels creates vulnerabilities in their digital strategy. Moreover, their recent leadership changes have left key accounts vulnerable." She slid a detailed analysis across the table, highlighting specific opportunities where her proposed agency could provide superior service. Marcus's eyebrows raised as he studied the data. She had done her homework thoroughly. Throughout the week, similar meetings unfolded across the city. Victoria Martinez, Chief Marketing Officer at Greenleaf Organics, listened intently as Clara outlined a hyper-targeted social media campaign that could double their engagement rates within 6 months. "Anderson and company promised us similar results," Victoria admitted, "but their execution has been lacking." Clara nodded sympathetically, knowing exactly which junior account manager had been assigned to Greenleaf after she left. She presented a phased implementation plan that addressed every pain point Victoria mentioned, sealing the deal with a handshake before dessert arrived. The most challenging encounter came when she met with Robert Henderson, a senior partner at Sterling Investments. He had been instrumental in awarding Anderson and company their largest account last year, an account Clara had personally pitched and won. "I appreciate your initiative, Ms. Bennett," Henderson said, swirling his espresso cup, "but why should we trust you after what happened?" Clara met his gaze directly. "Because I'm offering you something Anderson and company never could, complete transparency and unwavering commitment. Plus, I know exactly where they're vulnerable." Each meeting added another layer to her growing web of influence. Former colleagues recommended her to their new employers, industry peers shared valuable market insights, and even competitors offered subtle support, recognizing the opportunity to weaken Anderson and Company's stronghold. Clara meticulously recorded every interaction, every lead, every potential partnership in her expanding database. She wasn't just building a business, she was constructing an empire, brick by strategic brick. By Friday evening, her apartment walls were covered with sticky notes and flowcharts, connecting dots that only she could see. A color-coded system tracked pending proposals, confirmed partnerships, and potential acquisitions. The seed of her revenge had sprouted into a complex ecosystem of professional relationships, each one carefully nurtured and strategically positioned. Anderson and Company had fired her in silence, but Clara was building something that would echo through the industry, a testament to the power of resilience and strategic vision. As October turned to November, Clara watched the pieces of her master plan fall into place with precision timing. Her mornings began before dawn, responding to emails from European contacts while sipping her first cup of coffee. By mid-morning, she was conducting virtual meetings with potential partners across multiple time zones, her laptop displaying a rotating array of faces and presentations. The afternoons were reserved for in-person consultations, where she demonstrated her value proposition with hard data and proven results. Her evenings often stretched late into the night, analyzing market trends and refining her competitive strategies. The industry began to notice. Marketing Week featured her insights on digital transformation in a prominent article. Adage published her op-ed about the future of integrated marketing campaigns. Each publication added credibility to her growing reputation while subtly highlighting Anderson and Company's outdated approaches. Social media buzzed with speculation about who this emerging expert might be, and why her analyses consistently predicted Anderson and Company's missteps with uncanny accuracy. Clara maintained a careful balance between visibility and discretion, ensuring her moves remained unpredictable yet strategically sound. Her network expanded exponentially as former colleagues reached out with insider information. Jessica from account management warned her about Anderson and Company's struggling retention rates. David from IT shared details about their outdated CRM system limitations. Even Greg from finance provided quarterly projections that revealed hidden vulnerabilities. Each piece of intelligence was cataloged and cross-referenced in her growing database, creating a comprehensive map of her former employer's weaknesses. The irony wasn't lost on Clara. The very people Anderson and Company had retained were unwittingly contributing to their downfall. The momentum shifted dramatically when 3 major clients approached her simultaneously, seeking alternative solutions to their marketing challenges. Technova Solutions wanted a fresh approach to their product launch. Greenleaf Organics needed help revitalizing their brand identity. Sterling Investments sought a complete overhaul of their digital strategy. Each account represented millions in annual revenue that Anderson and Company had taken for granted. Clara handled each negotiation with surgical precision, ensuring her contracts included clauses that would make counteroffers nearly impossible. Industry events became her stage. At the Digital Marketing Summit, her keynote address drew standing ovations, particularly when she presented case studies, carefully anonymized, that mirrored Anderson and Company's recent failures. During panel discussions, she positioned herself as an innovator, contrasting her forward-thinking strategies against traditional methods. Networking receptions turned into recruitment opportunities as top talent approached her with interest in joining her burgeoning enterprise. Her phone buzzed constantly with messages from industry leaders and journalists eager to learn more about this mysterious marketing strategist who seemed to anticipate every market shift. Behind the scenes, Clara orchestrated a series of calculated maneuvers. She secured office space in the same building as Anderson and Company's headquarters, a coincidence that generated plenty of hallway encounters and awkward elevator moments. She hired key personnel who had grown frustrated with Anderson and Company's stagnant culture, each hire bringing valuable institutional knowledge. Vendor relationships were cultivated with precision, ensuring her operations ran smoother and more efficiently than her former employers. Every action was deliberate, every decision strategic, building toward a crescendo that would redefine the competitive landscape. As winter approached, Clara stood at her office window, watching snowflakes swirl around the city skyline. Below her, Anderson and Company's logo glowed faintly in the darkness, a reminder of where she had come from and how far she had traveled. Her desk was cluttered with congratulatory notes, contract offers, and partnership proposals. Yet amid this whirlwind of success, she felt something unexpected stirring within her, a realization that her journey had evolved beyond mere revenge. The satisfaction she derived from helping former colleagues find better opportunities had become its own reward. Watching young professionals thrive under her mentorship filled her with a sense of purpose that transcended her original mission. Each success story she helped create, whether it was a struggling startup finding its market niche or a seasoned executive rediscovering their passion, added another layer to her understanding of true leadership. The fire of vengeance still burned, but it now shared space with a deeper commitment to building something meaningful. Industry recognition poured in, speaking invitations from prestigious conferences, feature articles in leading publications, and award nominations for innovation in marketing strategy. Yet Clara found herself increasingly drawn to mentoring sessions and educational initiatives. She launched a scholarship program for underrepresented groups in marketing, using her platform to create opportunities she wished she'd had earlier in her career. Her former employer's struggles became less about personal triumph and more about proving that success could be achieved through integrity and genuine value creation. The complexity of human relationships in business revealed itself in unexpected ways. Former adversaries reached out, not with apologies but with respect for her professional evolution. Some even sought her advice on navigating their own career transitions. Clara realized that her journey had transformed her from a victim of circumstance into a catalyst for change, not just in her own life but potentially in the lives of countless others. As she prepared for the next phase of her plan, she understood that true victory lay not in destroying her former employer, but in building something so remarkable that their shortcomings would become irrelevant by comparison. The chessboard of her career had expanded beyond her initial vision, each move revealing new possibilities and deeper meanings. The silent firing that had once seemed like the end of her professional journey had instead become the opening gambit in a much larger game, one where the ultimate prize wasn't revenge, but redemption and reinvention on a scale she had never imagined possible. The day Clara launched her boutique marketing agency, Bennett & Company, felt like the culmination of every sleepless night, every calculated risk, and every ounce of resilience she had poured into her journey. The event was held in a sleek downtown venue, its walls adorned with digital displays showcasing her team's innovative campaigns. As former colleagues turned allies mingled with industry titans, Clara stood at the center of it all, her heart swelling not just with pride but with purpose. Anderson & Company, once an immovable giant, now seemed like a shadow of its former self. Rumors swirled about internal turmoil, key accounts jumping ship, top talent leaving for greener pastures, and clients openly questioning their relevance in an ever-evolving market. But Clara didn't gloat. Instead, she focused on what mattered most, the people who had believed in her vision and entrusted her with their brands. Her first major campaign, a bold rebranding effort for Greenleaf Organics, was unveiled that evening. It wasn't just successful, it became a case study in innovation, earning accolades from industry leaders and setting new benchmarks for creative excellence. Within months, Bennett & Company had secured partnerships with 3 Fortune 500 companies, each drawn to Clara's unique blend of strategic brilliance and empathetic leadership. What struck Clara most, though, was how her success rippled outward. Former colleagues who had reached out during those early days found themselves thriving under her mentorship. Jessica, the account manager who had leaked insider information, now led one of Bennett & Company's flagship divisions. David, the IT specialist frustrated by Anderson & Company's outdated systems, spearheaded their cutting-edge tech integrations. Even Greg, the finance guy no one took seriously, became her CFO, proving his worth tenfold. One afternoon, as Clara reviewed quarterly reports showing exponential growth, she received an email from none other than Robert Henderson of Sterling Investments. Attached was a glowing testimonial praising Bennett & Company's transformative impact on their brand. At the bottom, he added a personal note, "You've changed the game, Clara. And honestly, I think you've made us all better." But perhaps the most satisfying moment came when Clara received an invitation to speak at Anderson & Company's annual leadership summit. Initially hesitant, she accepted, not to rub salt in old wounds, but to share lessons learned through adversity. Standing before a room filled with familiar faces, some ashamed, others admiring, she spoke candidly about resilience, reinvention, and the power of embracing change rather than fearing it. "I didn't set out to destroy anyone," Clara said, her voice steady yet warm. "I set out to prove something, to myself, to this industry, and yes, even to my former employer. That sometimes, being let go isn't the end. It can be the beginning of something extraordinary." As she left the stage to thunderous applause, she noticed Mr. Thompson, her former CEO, lingering near the exit. For a moment, they locked eyes. He extended his hand, his expression unreadable. Clara hesitated, then shook it firmly. No words were exchanged, but the message was clear: respect earned speaks louder than resentment harbored. By year's end, Bennett & Company wasn't just competing with Anderson & Company, it had eclipsed them entirely. Clara's name became synonymous with innovation, integrity, and unwavering determination. Awards lined her office shelves, but none meant more to her than the handwritten letters from young professionals thanking her for paving the way. In the quiet moments, when the whirlwind of success settled into a steady hum, Clara often reflected on that fateful day in the conference room. What had started as a silent firing had transformed into a symphony of triumph, not just hers, but of everyone she had touched along the way. She realized then that revenge wasn't sweet because she had defeated someone else, it was fulfilling because she had built something truly remarkable. And so, Clara closed her laptop one evening, gazing out at the city lights. Her journey had come full circle, not with bitterness or vengeance, but with grace and gratitude. She smiled softly, knowing she had rewritten her story, and inspired countless others to do the same.